Do. Greetings, fellow armchair imagineers. Blue Dragon 5 here.
And I'm Lazerdude.
Yes, and we're here to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Inspector Gadget movie from 1999. That's right, folks. It's been 25 whole years since that movie came out. We're here to talk about it. Yeah, this is one I've been trying to get done for a long while, and with the anniversary, it just kind of seemed serendipitous to finally just do it. And I thought thought who better to join me than someone else who has kind of a fondness for the '90s.
Well, I grew up with the Inspector Gadget TV show because I had
Mm-hmm.
two channels growing up here, and Saturday morning cartoons were the only cartoons I would get, and one of the few shows that we got was Inspector Gadget. So I always loved the show, and I always just thought it was just like a really fun show with the deepest voice of a villain you'd ever had. And so when I saw the trailers that they were going to make a live action movie, I was like beyond hyped because there was something, especially when you were a little kid, that if they made a live action version out of something you liked, that made it feel more adult in your mind. Like they were actually taking this stuff seriously. And for some reason, as a kid, that just made your mind like want to absolutely love it.
So the reason I've been dying to do this one is I've always for the longest time I've been I'm very nostalgic towards this film. This film's very nostalgic for me. It's very linked to my childhood. I've always been a gadget nut since back in the animated series. I love gadgets. I love everything about them. I just it's very much indoctrinated into me because of Batman. So when I happened upon the Inspector Gadget show, I love the show. I mean, Inspector Gadget essentially is kind of a 2 to 3 part compound, depending on what you subscribe to here. Where basically Inspector Gadget is a combination of Get Smart, the Pink Panther, the original Peter Sellers Pink Panther, and some people say Dynamite, which did come before the Inspector Gadget cartoon. I don't know how true that is, but I mean, just with the whole like the coily kind of look, I'm inclined to think maybe Dynamite was in part at least the visage of Gadget in terms of how things function, but. Primarily, Get Smart in the Pink Panther, which is so funny because Get Smart is kind of a hybrid of James Bond, the Pink Panther. So the Pink Panther
Yeah.
is very key in all things Don Adams, it would seem. But of course, I adore Get Smart. I think subconsciously, when I eventually happened upon Get Smart, it was just sort of like, oh my god, no wonder I like it. That's the voice of Inspector Gadget. It's kind of funny
Well,
how that works.
it was also like a almost like a child empowerment show because while you did tune in to watch whatever Mr. Gadget pulled out of his head literally that episode, it were also cheering for Penny because she was the child, and unlike most shows, she wasn't the sidekick. She was the real hero of the show. It was the show where the kid was the hero that was helping the bumbling idiot of her uncle figure out the crimes. And it wasn't, and she never got bothered by the fact that she never got any credit. She was just happy to help save the day.
Absolutely. I mean, also the dog, also Brain the dog.
Brain the dog, great dog.
So,
What the movie made him a beagle, but I never considered him a beagle.
well, what the heck kind of dog would you consider him
Well,
anyway?
he's yellow, so I would at least
Like
choose a
lab?
golden retriever or maybe a golden lab before it. Well, except he's too smart to be a lab. But I wouldn't have picked a beagle. Is all I'm saying.
No, I'm with you. I'm just saying like, it's kind of hard because just the way Brain moved in that cartoon, it's really hard to pinpoint what kind of dog he was. But I guess you're right. Golden Retriever kind of makes the most sense. But I'm not a dog guy, so I don't know. Maybe there's like some sort of weird hybrid breed out there. Anyway, so I mean, the point is, I was very immersed in Inspector Gadget, the movies, the cartoon, and here's a deep pull for you. Okay, I wonder if you remember this
Hmm.
at all. I should do.
Okay, here.
Do you remember Inspector? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I'm here.
Just make sure. Okay, the Inspector Gadget field trip show. Do you remember Inspector Gadget's field trip?
Well, as I say, remember or you is that just a specific episode or
No, no, no. That was a spin-off show. That was like another. It was kind of a. Here's the thing. So
yeah,
Inspector
no,
Gadget's
we
field
didn't
trip.
get that on the CBC.
Okay, so here's the thing. So Inspector Gadget's field trip was. This is going to sound so geeky and nostalgic. Okay, it's.
All
I
right.
would wake up early to watch this show. I think I forget if it was on Saturday morning or not, but I would wake up early to watch this show. It basically was like a travel log thing, where essentially you had Inspector Gadget as the framing device. Basically, it's like live. It's a live action show, but you would have like a little animated, without a background or anything. Just like literally, Inspector Gadget is animated over and narrating like kind of as like somewhat as a vague framing device, not like a full on. You hear like Don Adams. I forget if it was Don Adams still at this point or Maurice LaMarche doing his Don Adams, basically doing the like telling you about, and we're in Italy, and he's just like walking you through and oh gelato, and it's like just kind of basically it's like a sightseeing tour around the globe, and I
Feels like a
purely
weird
watched.
host to do a sightseeing tour show.
Well, he did travel a lot though. That's the thing.
Yeah, I guess, but it's just like I don't expect Gadget to know anything about the countries he's visiting, you
Well,
know?
that was the sell. He didn't know anything about them. He was just like he was a tourist.
I guess.
But you're right.
But
It's a weird choice for sure. I know I have no qualms with that. I would just say that I was like I purely watched just for the animation. Oh my god, it's Inspector Gadget. He's popping up while we're sightseeing. It was like that.
you want to hear the the main thing about the show, it was that you never see Dr. Claw's face. You only see
Mm-hmm.
his gloved hand, his cat, and him getting angry and his deep gravelly voice. Well, my dad
Yeah.
told us that he had an opportunity to see Dr. Claw's face and he passed up on it because they used to sell Dr. Claw action figures,
Uh
but they
huh.
actually sold them with the face covered,
Mm-hmm.
so you had to buy the toy in order to actually see his face.
And you remember where we've seen that face, don't you?
Uh, well, I did actually look it up online. It was just an older guy. Was it like a Ghostbusters thing or?
Well, no, no. Here's the thing: they repurposed that duck. So after the toy came out, Robot Chicken used Doctor Claw's face as the mad scientist. So in the opening of Robot Chicken, that's
Really?
yeah, that's Doctor Claw's face.
Wow! I did not
And
see
they
that
got the
coming.
idea for Doctor Claw's face from like some video game they did. I forget if it was like I forget which console it was on. It was like kind of the old pixel kind of look to it. It was like that's basically Doctor Claw had like kind of like a gray hair. So it was very not the build on, but that's essentially where they got the idea. Let's give him like kind of a gray haired kind of mad scientist look, and then that's where they
That's
got the toy from. And then the toy eventually became like the mad scientist torturer, kind of like the guy putting the robot chicken in
yeah.
like the setup. That guy, that's Doctor Claw's face.
That that is a deep cut that I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I Wow. Okay, my mind's blown away. I did not see that coming. But okay, yeah. Dr. Claw's face is the robot chicken face or scientist face. Yeah, wow.
All right,
Okay.
okay. So real quick, before I'll talk about the movie in a second, and we'll get things started. But I want to shout out our commenters first, okay? Because they're
Okay.
they're getting rambunctious. Okay, Code Geass anime fan. I feel glad that you liked the Inspector Gadget film. I liked the film and did an anniversary video on it too. Oh yes, yes. I recall. I think I recall seeing that in my I want to call it like a feed or whatnot, but like a little subscription kind of thing on YouTube. I think I saw that pop up. Let's see. Theme Park Priest. It was a great cartoon. Let's hear about how the movie holds up. Oh, momentarily you will. Let's see. We'll talk about Stan Winston soon, Little Blue. We're going to get there. Let's see. Yes, fan. I'm a big fan of the Inspector Gadget cartoons, and the film is hardly an accurate adaptation, but it's a fun film that works if you don't compare it to the cartoons too much. Let's see. Again, he's pointing out again. Talking about some fun factoids, like about how Maurice LaMarche, he's going to be doing some convention stuff, and of course how he was, the second voice after the wonderful Don Adams. Uh, let's see. I was trying to see. Okay, here's one. Gino Cuddy Let's see. Hello. Stumbled upon this by chance. I loved the cartoon growing up, watching a Nickelodeon real early in the morning. I like the Broderick film, and I hope you do bring up. I hope you bring up the McDonald's. So yes, we will. Well, we're about to go through the background before we do the film. All right. So real quick, so I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the film, and then we're going to talk about the background, which is bring you into that McDonald's store stuff. So yeah. So I want to tell this story real quick. So again, that's we've kind of waxing about our nostalgia and kind of our love for the cartoon. But for me, because of that love for the cartoon, one of the most cherished VHSs I had, not the most cherished, but a very well loved and rewatched VHS tape was I think it was called Gadget's Greatest Gadgets, and essentially it was like a package film kind of thing. They put a few episodes of the cartoon together, and it's basically Gadget. They added like a little framing device, like Gadget, like talking to you, the viewing audience, and basically queuing up the clips. Nothing fancy. The point being, I I saw this film completely by accident. Having watched that animated VHS, and my folks, said like, "Hey," my mother said like, "Hey, you want to see the new Inspector Gadget movie?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, of course I do." I had no idea there was a live action one being made, or at the very least, I saw maybe some vague marketing. I wasn't quite aware of it. Then I was kind of bamboozled into seeing the live action film. So it was like that thing you go in thinking you're going to see an animated Inspector Gadget movie, and then you have then like right after the opening, it's like it's live action.
I had my memory of the Inspector Gadget movie before I saw it. I have two main memories. One, just seeing the trailer and being like, "Wait a minute, I recognize this movie. What this music? I mean, what music is this?" And then realized, and I went crazy for it. But two, I remember we were going to the theater, my entire family, and the van broke down in the middle of the road, in the middle of like the city. It just stopped working right in the middle of the road, and we had to pull over to the side of the road and hope that we were able to see the movie. We did get a mechanic able to fix it enough that we could drive it to the theater and home, but scary moments. But anyway, let's get into the actual movie of it.
well, I want to talk about the background of the movie, like how the movie
Sure,
happened.
sure, sure.
But overall, just to get this out of the way as well. I was a little skeptical, watching it because I was going expecting the cartoon. They got this live action movie, which clearly had some inaccuracies, which we'll get into. But overall, looking back on it, look, the film is it's a very imperfect film. There are a lot of issues with this movie, but it's always been a guilty pleasure. It's always been like this. It's steeped in the '90s. It's harmless, and I kind of love it, despite its faults. I kind of love it. Is Inspector Gadget 2, the direct-to-video thing they did, more accurate to the show? I mean, I think technically yes. Is it a better movie? I mean, stacking them up against each other, it's a little hard to say, but probably. But regardless, this film, this not the original film, it left an impact on me. I have like again so much nostalgia for certain scenes and certain elements of this film, which I'm eager to get into. So what gets us this film, you're probably wondering. So this is directed by David Kellogg, not the cereal guy, other Kellogg. David Kellogg, the guy who directed Cool as Ice, did a lot of music video work. Did I don't know if you've ever seen these? You ever see the Jerry Seinfeld Superman ads from the early 2000s?
No,
Yeah, those are fun. He did those. Patrick Warburton plays Superman.
no, I haven't seen those.
And oddly, David Kellogg also did a lot of directing for the Playboy channel. So
Playboys, yeah, that's what I saw. When I saw, I was like, okay, this guy's career did not go up after this.
yeah, well, that's the way I got to
This was
start,
his
though.
high point.
That's the thing. Yeah, this was kind of the biggest studio thing he ever did.
Let's just say the cereal did not stay in the bowl long before it got soggy. My
well,
metaphor ran out on me.
well,
Sorry.
I guess the better metaphor is he had a lot of milk with the cereal.
Yeah.
Okay, so the writers on this, I actually knew there's a headiest thing. I remember when Tiki and I, we for years we recapped Bates Motel, which is a show I love. And Carrie Aaron is essentially she was the head writer on Bates Motel, and I believe kind of the co-showrunner along with Carlton Cuse. Basically, she was she ran the ship with him. She basically ran the writers' room, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was the writer on. She was one of the writers on this, along with the great Zach Penn. Zach Penn, great writer, has been. He basically is kind of like the first draft guy. He worked on the first draft of Avengers before Joss Whedon kind of said, "Hold my beer." And did the Incredible Hulk before Edward Norton. That's the sad tragedy of Zach Penn. He gets the big superhero movies, and he always gets like shoved to the side. Ultimately, like, hey, I wrote the script for the Incredible Hulk, and then Edward Norton's like, let me make it a drama.
Sounds like Gil in that episode of The Simpsons where he almost sells the car and like, ah, no, you took my sale.
Little bit, little bit. And also Free Guy. Most recently did Free Guy. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Zach Penn, and a lot of people will point out that he worked on Ready Player One, like the film. He basically adapted
Yeah,
Ernest Cline's work.
I know I read the well, I listened to the audiobook, so I'm like, I'm pretty sure I would have recognized the name. But anyway,
Well, I mean, Zach Penn's a pretty cool guy. Anyway, so it's like some familiarity in the writers' room on this. Like you said, the movie was in development since the early '90s. It was kind of in the Universal camp. Then Spielberg wanted it for Amblin because around this time he was doing stuff like the Flintstones movies. So he was into kind of the possibility of adapting the cartoons in the live action. So Spielberg is very responsible for this sort of thing. Yes, and Disney did quite a few cartoon adaptations in the '90s. That's true, and of course, one of those kind of coincidentally being, I believe, I'm trying to remember. I think George of the Jungle technically was like either distributed through Disney or like kind of had like a thing where kind of a co-distribution. I'm not sure, but the point being, George of the Jungle was also kind of another one. So speaking of which, because there was a lot of casting going around for this movie. All right, so a lot of people showed interest with Spielberg attached, and you had like Ivan Reitman and Jeff Loeb. Yes, that Jeff Loeb, the comics writer Jeff Loeb, who worked in
oh
TV and
wow,
films. So he was. So I forget if I don't know if they did it before Spielberg or Spielberg kind of had them involved in it as well when he was kind of looking into producing the film. Like you had Ivan Reitman, who's potentially going to throw in, potentially would have directed it, potentially, and Jeff Loeb, who kind of like kind of got the stars aligned for it. And speaking of stars being aligned, do you know some of the names that were thrown out for Inspector Gadget and Doctor Claw?
all right, let's hit me, and I'll see if it would be if I think they'd be a better or worse.
So apparently, the two that Spielberg specifically was thrown out for Gadget was Chevy Chase, who I think has the face shape for it. And he does have the bumbling from Gerald Ford from SNL.
Yeah, but Chevy Chase just has one of those faces you want to punch. I don't think he'd be believable as the nice guy.
True. The other one, interestingly, Steve Martin, who goes on to play Clouseau years later when they redo the Pink Panther.
Boy, yeah, I don't know about that either. Just because Steve Martin always has the perpetual white hairness, and I think as a kid you wouldn't accept that. He's like, Inspector Gadget's not old. He's like, well, Steve Martin's not that old. He just has white hair. It's like, no, he has white hair. He's old.
There's also a thing called like wigs and hair dye, but
I guess, but has Steve Martin ever like changed his hair color in a movie? It's
I
almost
like
like his trademark.
well as a gag, I think he did once, but you're right. He's kind of he rarely ever does it. So fair point. Okay, so the point is they offered to all sorts of stars who, interestingly, have some correlations to some kind of gadget
Yeah.
adjacent stuff. Like, for example, we offered to a pre Toy Story Tom Hanks.
Okay.
We offered to Robin Williams, who goes on to do Flubber.
Yeah.
Brendan Fraser, who was kind of the front runner, but he was busy with George of the Jungle.
Okay.
And
Yeah. No.
most here's the most interesting: Steve Carell, who went on to play a Don Adams in Get Smart, though when they redid the movie.
That that I think would have been a real like really good one. I think that yeah. I mean, I I don't know if it would have made the movie any any better than it is. You know, it is what it is. But like I that would have been a good one. I would have think that it might have been a better pick.
Now there's one more. Now here's the one they apparently one of the drafts of the movie was written with this person in mind. I love this actor, and I think actually he would have been a very solid gadget choice. The great Kevin Kline. He was actually slated to be the role before Broderick entered the
Oh,
picture.
I can see it.
Yeah, and again, I love Kevin Kline. I think he's got a range. I think he honestly, I think he would have brought a lot what I was kind of looking for in this movie. But who knows? So Doctor Claw was a shorter list, but a list of just really fine actors. Okay, any one of these guys, I don't think you would have missed with. Okay, so the best one, I think, Tim Curry.
Well, yeah. That I mean, you put Tim Curry in anything, it's gonna be better. It's gonna be weirder, but it's gonna be better. And like, than almost anything.
It's
Like, I don't think Tim Curry would do necessarily better in a Daniel Day Lewis performance, but you know what I mean. And if you want a silly role, he's gonna be better than any silly person you put in
I'm
it.
just saying, like in theory, you say Tim Curry's playing Doctor Claw in Inspector Gadget movie without seeing this movie. You're thinking it's going to be like The Voice, and you're going to have Tim Curry doing the voice and like being, kind of like mustache twirly evil, which is what you want,
Get
Doctor
you
Claw.
next time, Gadget.
Next time, Gadget. And we had some other ones kind of in that vein. John Lithgow,
Oh, maybe.
yeah. Willem Dafoe, he was another one.
Well, that would have been probably a bad idea, just because you never know what Defoe's going to do on set. You know, I mean, he's actually crazy. No, I'm kidding. No, Defoe would probably have been a good pick.
Okay, and then there was lastly, this one was pretty much them shooting for the moon, but you never know. James Earl Jones.
Oh yeah, James. If it was like he has the voice for it. And I was gonna say I don't know if he has the look, but I'm like, wait a minute, what am I talking about? You never saw his face, so of
Yeah,
course he could have the look. He has anyway. I feel like he would fit better than this guy, who I still don't know his name.
really, you don't, Rupert Everett.
Right. Sorry. No, I do know Rupert. I'm just not very like. I had to be reminded. Sorry.
Okay, it's okay. Anyway, so all this was kind of going about, and then Disney bought Deke Animation, so they got the rights, and Broderick he kind of got involved because he wanted to do a role with physical comedy, and Everett was actually a yes, there you go, Rupert Everett, also Prince Charming, Shrek 2.
Yes. Yes.
That's the biggie. So here's what happened. So again you had Kevin Kline was kind of the old guard, and then they wanted to, they kind of Disney wanted to do their own thing, executive thinking, like, hey, we want our own guy, and Broderick expressed interest. They ended up with Hank Azaria as Dr. Claw, but he bowed out of the movie because he was busy with stuff, and he ended up. They ended up just being in a bind, so they kind of cast Rupert Everett at the last minute, which is, I think, is why we have a lot of random Claw dialogue because he's just kind of shoehorned in there.
Yeah.
So that's what I think happened ultimately. Where basically he was so last minute. I think that's why they probably had to reshoot a lot of the stuff they may have planned or not planned with Doctor Claw.
Yeah. I will say, we're getting into it. There's a lot of weird changes to the Inspector Gadget lore just off the hop. Like, just in yeah, Dr. Claw. He has a claw, right?
Okay,
No?
Okay, look, come on. Now, to be fair, well, I like the addition of the Claw because as a kid, it always baffled me. Why is he called Doctor Claw?
He had a glove that had spikes on the end of it. It was like in a
Not
claw
remotely a
shape.
claw. Not remotely a claw.
Like a animal claw.
How is that an animal? It's spikes. Okay, he's wearing like a goth glove.
Like
That's
his
the closest.
fingers were sharp, like it was a claw from a
They were
bear.
not. Those were not sharp gloves. They didn't even points on the fingers. It was like a metal like wrapped glove with like a little spiky wrist. Okay, he was like every animated goth teen you've ever seen.
I remember as the hand being clawed, but it's been a
I'm
while.
pretty sure it was not a claw. That's what I'm saying. It's not really that. There was no claw in there. It was a
Well,
cool name.
either way, the it could just be his last name. People do have that name.
Well, that's like the one change to claw I actually didn't mind because it's like, you know what? I mean, why not just give him an actual claw? It looked really. I'm a sucker for, again, me being the gadget with the name. Like, we give him at least one gadget that's kind of distinctive for him, that kind of that kind of like pairs him well with Inspector. I don't know. I like the actual idea of the robotic
I guess
claw.
because he doesn't do anything with it.
Well, I mean, he's
Like,
kind of threatening with it. He's kind of hurting people with it, and he's
I don't.
menacing.
It
That's a little
doesn't.
bit of menace.
I guess so. If you say so.
That's just
I
me.
mean,
Look, I could be wrong. I like the claw, but I get it.
well, here's the thing. When I first saw this movie as a kid, your mind goes to what they got wrong.
Yeah.
It's like as an adult, I'm not as into that. Like I used to complain in my reviews for hours and hours about how things were not like they were in the original, drafts of stuff, like, well, this isn't the original and this is different and why are they changing this? And I remember I did it in like a review I did for the Geek Volutions, who reviews the reviewers.
Mhm.
And then I think it was Captain Logan who brought up a point. Is like, yeah, what does it matter if it's the same? We're judging whether it's good or bad. What does it matter? And I'm like, that's a fair point. Like, but as a kid, there were so many things that were different. I was just like, why? Get it right.
So,
Turn the Inspector Gadget mobile from a car into a minivan for no reason.
well, I think you mean from a minivan into a car.
Well, either way, yeah, but
Yeah, so
it could have just been the car.
you're right. Okay, so to bridge off of that, to kind of round things out a bit here. So again, that was a lot of there's a lot of '90s studio thinking on this film, and it shows a lot. Like
Mm.
the Gadget Mobile, for example. Yeah, it's basically it's like, hey, let's
It's a black sidekick.
yeah, exactly. We need it's like back when they're doing like Superman Lives. It was like we're gonna give Brainiac like a black sidekick for a moment there. It was like why do it? But it was like it's because it's popular, because the kids are
We're
gonna
trying to
love
be
it.
cool and hip and reach the
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
I mean, frankly, it was I think we all love Eddie Murphy, and we want a Diet Coke version of Eddie Murphy in every film. If we can't get the actual Eddie Murphy, that's kind of what the
But
feeling was.
it was
Everyone was 80s. Eddie Murphy made his mark, and
it
everyone's trying
was
to
a
recapture that in a lightning in a bottle. And it's just never worked.
it was just one of those ways that were like, oh, it was almost well-meaning, like a well-meaning way of being inclusive, but they didn't know how to
But
write
when you
black
have an agenda,
characters.
it feels
Yeah,
disingenuous when you have an agenda, though.
absolutely. Yeah, it was disingenuous, and they also didn't know how to write black characters. But also, it's like, why is the car like an ethnicity at all?
Like the
It's a
Gadget-Mobile
car.
barely talked in the show. The Gadget-Mobile, it was very Siri-esque. It wasn't really like a personality. It
Yeah,
wasn't
it did
like a
not have a
sidekick.
personality.
It was just like it was a cool mode of conveyance, and maybe occasionally it would say doing this, doing that, like a computer. It's like
I'm
anyway.
it's not the end of the world to give it an artificial intelligence, I guess, but it was a stereotype.
Yeah.
So
Well, here's the thing. I don't know. I wouldn't say. Okay, I wouldn't go as far as to stereotype, but it was like we gave the car a lot of spotlight when we probably didn't need to.
yeah,
Well,
but it's okay
here's the
because you
problem.
can press a button
The
and get
Gadget
cool.
Mobile, well, the Gadget Mobile took all of Penny's screen time. That's something. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
problem right
that's
there.
true.
Okay, anyway, so also it's because someone asked about this earlier. Um, yeah, so the marketing for this film, a lot of marketing tie-ins that we kind of see in the Gadget Mobile itself. With the Skittles, the M&Ms, and the McDonald's, which brings us to the Happy Meal toy tie-in. Now, do you remember? I want to ask you this, Lazerdude. Did you get all the pieces? Did you construct the inspector the build an Inspector Gadget?
I don't remember anything of the Happy Meals and Inspector Gadget. Sorry to say.
Okay, I'm no joke. Across from me on my dresser is still my constructed Inspector Gadget from the Happy Meal Happy Meal
So like
toys.
they gave you like pieces of Inspector Gadget and you had to assemble it.
Yeah,
That is the worst idea for a Happy Meal ever, but it would drive like completionist kids crazy enough
that's
that
the
they
thing.
would
People
beg their parents to go back.
it was a craze for sure, and people were buying it like crazy to build the whole set. But it was like one of those things where it was like you bought it, and then it was like it was just like he's basically built the
It was,
statue that has like each piece of them is like a different toy that can do something on its own. But when you put them all together, it's like you build the full Matthew Broderick Inspector Gadget. I mean,
oh my
I
gosh.
really like it. I think it's really cool. I was like, basically the idea of like getting one. The Inspector Gadget toys were very scarce back then, so it was like the closest thing you had to actually having an Inspector Gadget toy. Period. So that's why fundamentally that's why I was really keen about it.
They scarce. I remember quite a few of them, but
I mean, I remember I think it
yeah,
only had,
actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, uh there was this place in a town near where I grew up that just they never switched out toys whenever they got toys, they just kept everything there. So I think that place had Inspector Gadgets up while nobody else was carrying them. So yeah, maybe I was just a little bit skewed on that, but yeah, no, it's a brilliant marketing thing. But as a kid, I would feel almost gypped.
Well, I mean, again, if I live this way, like they labeled all the numbers you needed for the things. It wasn't like impossible to get the full set, but maybe I was just lucky. I don't know. But here's the thing: it's not like hard to actually. If you want to do like an eBay, like for $20, you could get like the full thing. So it's not like impossible. There was, I think that's like over the passage of time, it's just become it's kind of worth less than it used to be, despite being 25 years later. I don't know. But yeah, it was. I don't know. It's just kind of. It was like it's a very unique thing. Other than any other having toys ever done something like that, where if you get them all, you can actually build something versus just like you buy like the little Marvel like link up bases on the Avengers, where it's like you can get a full set and that'd be cool, but it's like you'd still have like individual like full figures. Like this, like you need all the pieces.
Hmm. Hmm.
Otherwise, you're gonna have like a gadget named Eileen because he's missing a leg. It would work.
Basically, McDonald's took advantage of everybody's OCD.
Pretty much. That's accurate. All right. So Ebert hated the movie because he was a fan of the show. He really hated all the differences. Eventually, we get a few 4 years later, we got a direct-to-video sequel. I mean, it honestly holds up pretty relatively. It holds up
It
pretty well.
never
Not
got
counting the
around to it.
It's worth it's really worth watching, especially if you remotely like this film. I think the set the
Well,
it's more
I mean,
it's closer to the cart.
here's the thing. I rewatched this in preparation, and boy, was this hard to go through.
Well, that's okay. That's what I'm sorry, Liz. That's what I'm trying to get at here. Is that the second movie is a lot closer to the cartoon. I'm not joking. There, it's like a lot. Everything this like the whole point of this of the second one was they kind of wanted to course correct and do all the stuff that was a response to the criticism. Like, why isn't this like the cartoon? So the second movie, the direct to video, while on a lower budget, so it doesn't have quite the feature production. You kind of wish you could mix and match in that regard. But even on a lower budget, I mean, it's a far better attempt at it. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying I don't know which is better, but I mean, it sounds like if you stack them up, I have a feeling you would have liked two a lot more than you like this.
Possibly, because like
Regardless,
there's a lot of just like weird decisions in it. But I mean, I don't want to just like go terrible. Like I'm gonna say my favorite thing about the movie and my most hated thing about the movie. My favorite part of the entire movie is when evil Gadget is going around and we cut to a bunch of Japanese guys going, "This is why I left Tokyo." That is a quality joke. That is really funny. It is like classic. It's just really good. The most hated thing I have about this is Matthew Broderick is evil Gadget because the way he plays that character, like, huh, like with his overbite out in such a like, it's so disturbing to me. I absolutely hate it.
wait for Robo Gadget.
For the evil Gadget,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like the way he plays it, it's just really annoying to me.
Okay, well, with that said, let's start breaking it down here.
Sure, sure.
Okay, so I want to highlight this just because basically I'm going to kind of pro con this here. Where again, I think I want to highlight the good elements that are there. So we're not just going to be all negative on like, hey, let's celebrate the 25th anniversary by tearing it down and burning it asunder. Let's not do that.
Right.
Yeah. So the opening credits, the John Debney score overall, it
Yeah.
really shows like it basically feels like the show on the big screen when this movie first pops up. It's like this feels like Inspector Gadget show with like a budget and just kind of in live action, which is basically why you
Score is
wanted to
great.
see this movie.
No, I was just saying the score is perfect. A perfectly adapts the theme song to score in just a way that I have zero complaints about. It's like, yep, that's the song, and it doesn't add any weird rap numbers to it, which some adaptations of classic songs tended to do back in the '90s and even in modern times. It's just, hey, this is the song that everybody loves. Let's just update it, make it into a score. It was perfect.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing. I like that when we do it here, it's like less of that. It's more of just kind of like we've added like almost like somewhat of like an operatic kind of like we kind of have like more of a not a choir, but we have kind of like a kind of an echo. Like there's like feels like it was recorded with an orchestra somewhat.
Yeah.
Has like scope to it. Maybe that's the better way of putting it. So like overall, just to kind of summarize it a little bit here. So giving Inspector Gadget a backstory. So this is interesting because Inspector Gadget, it's not well known, but Inspector Gadget does in fact have a backstory that was on the back of a trading card. Like that's how limited it's like the whole thing of like '60s Batman, where only for like one line in the first episode do we mention Bruce Wayne's parents were murdered. It's a footnote. So apparently, there's like a trading card somewhere that did mention that Inspector Gadget, his origin story was that he was basically in pursuit of somebody. He slipped on a banana peel, which led to an accident.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not joking. That's like it's written on the back of a card. He was in pursuit.
Oh,
He slipped on a banana peel. That led to an accident. He was reconstructed. All the gadgets put into him, and then he was mind wiped, and then made an Interpol agent.
what? Mind wiped? Like
Yeah,
he
that's the
just
thing. Apparently, they mind wiped him. What?
well, it's equally dark and silly at the same time.
Yeah, but
It's like on the one hand, the most cartoonish thing of all time, somebody slipping on a banana peel. And on the other hand, it's flipping RoboCop. We don't need his brain. Mind wipe the guy. So it's like how is it the darkest and silliest thing at the same time?
it is quite interesting, isn't it? The fact that plus it's like a little footnote there, but it feels like to some degree they kind of built off of that. It's like the only inkling they really had, but they kind of went the whole like basically it's Disney's version of RoboCop slash the $6 million man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So bridging off of that, so again, it's a weird thing to give Inspector Gadget an origin story, but if you're going to do a movie, at the very least, this was the thinking back then. We can't just have established characters with brief glimpses back into the backstory. They wanted to show it back then, and with that in mind, I do love the idea of Gadget bumbling as he traditionally is, but with pathos. Now, I'm not saying this film succeeded fully at that, but I like in concept. I like the idea of like, okay, we the only problem with the Inspector Gadget show, and this is not a problem with it, but this is like the one thing I would change that the movies actually did something with. Never to the fullest extent that I would like them to, but letting Gadget get a win now and again, like doing the thing where his bumbling, succeeds, but he's like has a little bit of his own autonomy. I'm not saying like do away with Penny and Brain doing stuff behind the scenes, but I mean like let Gadget actually kind of grow a little bit, like a little bit. Not that's going to fundamentally change the character, but just like let him like actually do stuff intentionally and have it work out now and again. And I think that's a reasonable ask.
I totally get what you mean. Like at sometimes when you watch the show, you feel like Gadget, you can't be this dumb. Just figure it out. And I remember I can't remember the name of the episode or anything, but I do remember watching one episode where like Penny did help save the day, but Gadget did eventually like figure it out, and he actually grabbed the bad guys himself.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, there you go, you got your win, you did it. It's like Penny helped, but you did that. It's like so that yeah, that felt good. So yeah, I get that.
So I mean that's the thing where I understand the movie. The reason like Penny's role is so in this first movie specifically is so like minimized is because they're under the impression of like, okay, we need a character to have like an arc and grow and everything. To do that, we need to have them have full autonomy in the story, which means we can't have someone like doing all the legwork behind the scenes there. So we got to know this guy and we got to see this guy go from point A to point B. So I understand that from a scripting, the point of view there. But the direction does feel really off with how we're directing Broderick in a lot of this. Because I mean, Broderick he does a look that's a little like Don Adams, which I appreciate. In kind of bringing like Inspector Gadget to life in live action. and we have the earnestness there, but we don't really have like the silliness. The silliness is completely gone because they're trying to ground it, which feels kind of odd in a movie where it's about a guy who has like 13,000 gadgets built into his body.
Yeah, it's funny because like I feel like sometimes filmmakers were like, okay, we're adapting a cartoon, but we can't give it the logic of a cartoon. They're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
we'll be silly and do some silly things and add obnoxious cartoony sound effects in every little moment we can put it in. But for the most part, we got to treat this like it was a realistic world similar to ours, just with a little bit of suspension of disbelief, which I feel like you don't need to do. And like I was gonna say, like I feel like we are learning that now, where it's just like now we can just go super crazy with any live action cartoon, whatever. Like when you see movies like Everything Everywhere All at Once, you can be serious and utterly bonkers at the same time. But then I was thinking, like George of the Jungle did it.
Hmm.
George of the Jungle made a movie with cartoony logic and made it in a live action sense. So it's like it wasn't impossible to do even then.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. So I mean, with Gadget here, so I respect the idea of like, okay, you have a security guard who wants to be in law enforcement. He has his dreams of law enforcement that are oddly very green. Did you notice all the green in that opening dream
There
sequence?
is a
Like,
lot of it's just it looks like just leftover sets from Cat in the Hat, even though Cat in the
yeah,
Hat came out much
even
later.
though
But
yeah, that's the thing. It feels like maybe they reused it in Cat in the Hat.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Again, George of the Jungle. Yeah, that's seriously. I will stand by that George of the Jungle. I really enjoy that George of the
Oh,
Jungle movie.
look,
It's great.
I'm gonna not try to be super negative all the time in here, but I'm gonna tell you for the most part, this was not an enjoyable rewatch for me. But if we were doing this on George of the Jungle, I would be over the moon. My wife and I rewatched that not too long ago, and that movie holds up.
I love that we had John Cleese, his brother ape, man. It's so awesome.
And they were filled with awe. Oh,
It's
that's
adorable.
awe. You, ooh. Anyway,
Anyway, so yeah, so we're so I like the idea of this earnest security guard is like trying to catch a murderer, and his bumbling via the oil slick, which I feel the oil slick is like the update on the banana because the idea is like the oil slick
mm-hmm.
happens and then he slips upside down. So that's essentially the Inspector Gadget trading card origin, only with more vehicular than just like him walking on, running on a banana peel. Um, but he's offered the chance to do some good, but he's still bumbling with the guys. So I like to we've taken the bumbling, which leads to his demise, and we've kind of found an upside to it. So I can respect that on the page, and I can see that potentially working. I just don't think we quite bring it home.
You know what
Like
I was thinking that was just kind of funny to me?
what?
Well, he slips on the oil slick, but that doesn't cause him to be Inspector Gadget. His vehicle's just flipped upside down,
Yeah, he gets
and then
blown
they
up.
shoot a missile at it and blow it up.
No, no,
And
they,
the thing
no, they don't.
about all
They don't shoot a missile at it.
oh right, they
The dynamite. That's a cigar. Now, by the way,
right
worst writing in the movie. By the way, where he says, "Here you go, Inspector.
smoking
Congratulations. Here,
kills.
I don't smoke." It's like the most awkward exchange before you're gonna kill a guy. It's like, well, he already said he doesn't smoke. He's saying it twice, so it's just really
Right.
awkward.
But the thing I found just funny, I just thought of now, the explosion was a pretty good and huge explosion. And I was
Yep.
just thinking that was a more violent explosion than we got in the RoboCop remake that blows him up
Hmm.
and makes him RoboCop in the
Isn't
movie.
that crazy?
Inspector Gadget had a more violent explosion than the RoboCop remake.
I seriously hate the explosion in the RoboCop remake for that reason. It's just so stupid. Like like come on, he's not. He doesn't look hurt at all. He didn't lose
I
any
don't know,
body parts.
it's a little burn, little sunburn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, so
where
but
like
here,
yeah, you can continue.
so that's the thing. So with the pathos, I mean, for example, these are the things no one ever talks about this movie. Okay, the murder of Artemis Bradford. Okay, I love Rene Auberjonois, the actor who plays Brenda's dad. And he's only has one scene.
Yeah.
this actor is so good in that short time. You kind of care about the guy. The whole like I was thinking about your mother. He was making the foot move with the heart, which kind of sets
It's
up
one
a
of the
big
few
thing.
things I really remember about this movie years later is that foot moving scene, and it's powered by him thinking of that happy memory about his wife. As like
Mm-hmm.
that's a great moment. That's probably
Yeah,
the best acting in the whole movie.
and then it's kind of like as a kid, it's like, oh my god, we just killed that guy in the Inspector Gadget movie. We just killed that guy.
Good guys don't. What? It's very abruptly too. It's just like it feels weird that we do that, and then it's the same movie that the henchman feels bad and cries to his mommy and turns himself in at the end of the
Uh huh.
movie. It's
Yep.
like you're going to jail for assisted murder. In fact, wasn't he driving the carts?
No. That was Claw. Claw drove.
Okay,
That
okay,
was
maybe.
Claw. That's the thing. Sykes didn't kill anyone. All right, he did hold a gun on a minor, so it's not good. Didn't shoot her, but he still held the gun on her.
At least assisted a murder for one person and assisted attempted murder for Gadget.
There you go. I mean, he was party to it. He's an accessory. No, he's an accessory to murder. There you go.
Anyways,
Okay, so Dr. Claw. Speaking of which, so again, here's the thing: when you look at that opening, I don't mean just the opening. We kind of need to establish Gadget, and Dr. Claw. Then we're going to probably speed past, kind of get into things a little bit more here.
yeah,
Dr. Claw. I really like if we took out the stupid bit where he's like laughing at the foot maniacally. If we actually built up the reveal here, I'm not saying we necessarily look in a perfect world. The way we would do this movie now, we wouldn't show Claw at all. In a perfect world, we wouldn't show him. Now, I suspect there's a lot of actors' ego there, where it's going to be the thing of like I'm going to play this part, maybe top billing with the guy. I should be seen, which of course he doesn't. I assume he doesn't quite understand. Like
Carl Urban would have been perfect for Dr. Claw.
there you go. See that guy doesn't mind. But you see what I mean, though. Where it's kind of like a thing where the actor
Yeah,
has to be seen, so we'll pay a
we have to
brief
be able to
homage
put him
to
on the
it.
poster.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So I can respect like we frame him exactly like Dr. Claw from the Inspector Gadget. I thought that was really cool. And we build him up and like we're lighting him in the limo just right, and just the way we're composing those shots. And then if like hypothetically, if you were to reveal Claw, if you're gonna like you're gonna build it up and then we'll have a reveal only if the guy were actually cool and menacing after that point to actually like somewhat sell you on that idea that as a big subversion would that work, which it doesn't because he's really goofy after that point. But you see what I'm like in theory it's like if you're gonna do like a reveal that cool and then go against the grain,
Yeah.
that's kind of a way to do it, and I can respect that. But then it's like it just gets really cheesy, like I Gadget, and like kind of like later in the third act, it's getting it's
Well, it
hey,
almost kind of feels like that's what they were going for, and then they got there and they were shooting it, and the lighting conditions just kept lighting up his face, and they're like, "Ah, screw it, we'll just do it."
well, I mean, it feels like it feels very much like a '90s thing of like, okay, with the handicap of we have to show the bad guy, we can't keep him, we can't go out of our way to like obscure him throughout the whole film. If you have to accept that, it's one thing, but it's like we just play him like he's not pure evil. He's not a bad guy. Where in reality, he's more like he's a prissy rich guy who used to be a fat guy. That's what we get in this movie.
Yeah.
He's the prissy rich guy who's he's the pretty boy rich guy who used to be a fat guy. That's what his character is. That's not Dr. Claw.
Yeah,
That's not Dr.
why
Claw to
is
anybody.
like that just feels really unnecessary. Like, I used to be fat. Oh, that
Yeah,
makes you funny? It's like, what?
it's a weird. There are a lot of weird choices.
Yeah, especially at the end when he's like laughing so like silly and like
Bring on the brownies.
yeah, like what are you
Like he gets
talking
just
about?
like, look. I will give Rupert Everett this credit. Okay, not as Dr. Claw, but just like his reaction to the whole "I liked you better, fat." It is funny. We don't. It's completely wrong for that moment in this film, but it's kind of funny. I don't know. It's
Okay, that line in that moment that that did make me laugh. I thought it was a funny moment, but
it's funny. It's completely wrong for the scene, but it's
look,
hilarious.
kind of like I was thinking is like, could you have done a thing where you made him silly but still menacing? Because I was like, you can do that. Like Lord Business in the Lego Movie is extremely silly, but he's also menacing as well.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that that's Dr. Claw. I feel like Dr. Claw has one mode: angry and maniacal and
But a cat
scheming.
lover.
Yeah, he's a cat lover, but yeah, Dr. Claw was never silly.
Hmm.
You were laughing at Dr. Claw because of how pissed off he was, and because he accidentally smacked his cat off the desk.
Oh yeah.
That was what you would laugh at with Dr. Claw, like, hey, you lose. It wasn't, oh my gosh. Yeah,
Yep. Yeah.
gravely voiced. I don't even know if that guy spoke again after the show. His voice was so low. We'll get you next time.
Well, we know we did. That's Frank Welker. That's Scooby Doo.
Oh yeah, I knew it was somebody, but I didn't
Well,
know
one
he
of the
was like
Scooby.
I
Well,
didn't know he was Scooby Doo. That
well,
seems very, very
well,
strange.
Fred and Scooby Doo, but mostly Fred. But yeah.
Dang, talented guy. That's like,
Hmm.
yeah, I would not have guessed.
So again, with
But
mine is yeah. Go on.
I was just saying, like it was it was a thing that, like, we know that they watched the show. Okay, we know that it's not like these people didn't watch the show, and they had reasons for the moments they changed and stuff. But it was one of those things where it's just like, as a kid and you're watching and it's so different. Like, I think for me, the equivalent would be like Jared Leto as the Joker. You know, it's like this character that's usually, it just felt so off from what the character should be. It just puts you off of the character entirely.
Agreed. So I want to highlight. So earlier, we mentioned was mentioned the Stan Winston Studio. They did a lot of the practical effects on the film with the Gadget and the claw and all that sort of stuff, which is I think is impressive and something you don't really we would never do today, which is kind of something that does stand out about this film. We had practical gadgets, at least for let's say 70% of the gadgets were practical.
Yeah, I always appreciate that. Like, I was watching a movie the other day, and there was just so much practical effects. I was like overjoyed. Like, it was like, oh my gosh, that looks real. It was like, it took me aback, and it's not like the movie was absolutely like amazing or mind blowing, but it was like the practical stuff. Like, I felt it was there, and it was such a feeling that I hadn't felt in a long time. So yeah, this movie has that. Unfortunately, the visual effects, when they look fake, they look fake.
With that in mind, I do have to admit though. Okay, so when Gadget is reborn, he wakes up after the procedure. Which, by the way, I do one of the great scenes of the movie, though. No matter what, one of the great scenes is the OR scene, where we're putting all the gadgets into them. We're playing the music, and again the John Debney, kind of Inspector Gadget score that we're doing, and it's fun. We're seeing all the wacky stuff they're putting in. That's delightful.
Hmm. Reminds me of The Mask, when they're like trying to frisk him, and they keep on finding more and more stuff
Yeah,
in his pockets. It reminds me of that. It's good moment there.
yeah. So again, it was basically selling the whole like Disney version of RoboCop $6 million man thing. The shot that I was obsessed with as a kid. Now, mind you, again, I'm not saying like as you said with the visual effects, obviously dated, don't hold because the scene's a little enhanced by visual effects. But I still conceptually, I love the shot where he comes to and he has his hand in front of his face and like the hand's going haywire, all the gadgets. I can't tell you why. I love that hand shot because I love the techno body horror component of that scene. I just love the idea of like you're coming to and you're seeing what's happening, but it's not scary. It's more like it's silly and eerie. It's kind of like it's like just the processing of like what the heck is going
Mm.
on. And plus when I went back to it, I looked at like the trailer and stuff. I mean, there's a lot of great build to that moment too, where it's like like I don't know, there's a lot like the score in that moment where he comes to, and then we kind of capture it a little bit in the trailer. I don't know. I thought that was that's where we're hitting the stride what I want to see in Inspector Gadget. We're having the bumbling kind of like physical comedy of like the gadgets going haywire and him not a lot of Get Smart Pink Panther kind of shenanigans ensuing
Mm.
there. Like that's the sweet spot to hit if you're going to take that character and bring him into another medium. Then we have just in general, like just kind of spring forward a little here, like stuff like I love the manual. I love we have this giant manual
Yeah.
with all like 13,000 gadgets in it. I love because that's the thing is actually someone did the count once. There's like it's supposed there's supposed at least like the factoid with like from the cartoon is that apparently Spectre is supposed to have over 13,000 gadgets in his body.
Mm. Probably
Anyway,
one of those things where they have like one gadget that's just like a Swift's Army knife, and they count each one of the things a Swift's Army
yeah,
knife can do
no,
with the gadget.
absolutely, yeah, yeah,
By the way, I since we've already covered Claw, I wanted to cover this. I just wanted to go back to this for a quick
sure,
sec.
sure, sure.
Did you notice that scene where it's in his like office and there's a counter counting his net worth?
Mm-hmm.
Did you do the math on how much that is?
It was a lot. I remember.
$10 trillion.
Yeah, there you go.
$10 trillion.
Yep.
I looked up one sec. I asked ChatGPT to tell me how much you could buy with $10 trillion. It says number one, entire companies. For instance, you could have Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, all combined. You could have the GDP of several companies. For example, Canada is $2 trillion, so you could basically buy Canada and have $8 trillion to spare. You could buy
What is that really
basically
saying about Canada, though?
all of NASA. Go to the okay, yeah, okay. It says that NASA's budget to go to the moon was around 93 billion. With 10 trillions, you could fund over 100 trips to the moon, which actually isn't as much as I thought it was. But it's like you can basically buy up all of the rail networks in the United States for 2 trillion. Anyway, it's a lot. I'm like, why do you need to sell weapons? You have more money than exists in the human world.
Yeah,
Basically,
hey, that's greed for you.
yeah. Anyways,
And
so
anyway, so okay, so the point being,
back to
I
Money
love
Driver.
yeah, so I love the manual. I love like the art design of that manual. I mean, if I kind of it's really silly how giant it is, but I mean, it's a gag. But I like that we
It's a
kind
good
of set up.
gag.
I like that we set up things in the third act, the extendo legs and the and the helicopter head, like when he's looking flipping through it. My favorite gadget that, as a kid at least, was again just because of this it's very 90s Nickelodeon era stuff. I know obviously this is a Disney film, but still it's like the toothpaste. I really like the toothpaste running gag for no good reason. It's just kind of fun and messy, and I don't know, it's just getting everywhere. It's kind of nice. I don't know, it's just kind of funny.
You know what's the funniest part about that scene to me is the fact that like he's given a scenario where two guys are robbing a bank and
Mm-hmm.
he wants to trip them up, and the first thing he can think is oil slick, and they don't have oil slick, but they have toothpaste. Oil slick is not a bad option. Am I crazy? Like that would probably be pretty good. If I was robbing a bank and some guy just started shooting oil at me, I would fall all over the place.
Yeah.
Then you bring out the lighter and say surrender. It's like if you want to go dark about it. But I'm
Well, I
just
don't
like,
think you
but that's the
necessarily
one
need to
thing
go
you
dark
don't
about it.
have in there. Claw had oil slick in his car, and you don't have oil slick.
Well, that's the question. The question is, and we kind of explore this with like the really weirdest one of the weirdest scenes in the movie with the guru. But I think there's a question of how much does he have to mentally think about the gadgets? Because there's a lot of him figuring out how things work with the bumbling aspect. So I don't know if that's like the toothpaste. The real question is like, why on earth would he have that much toothpaste ready to spray out like that when it's just like all he needs is like a little like tube in the finger or something, you know?
Did he have to go back and get refilled for the next time he used toothpaste, or did he have enough and he used more? He
So
had
it's in,
more in his store the second time.
it is interesting that you say that because Inspector Gadget 2, we have a lab guy, and the presumption is Gadget does go for like a tune-up and a checkup and stuff. So I presume when he does that, he gets refilled.
Huh, okay.
It's a
Well, there
guess, though.
you
I'm
go.
just saying, based on like that one scene, that's the implication because he goes to get a diagnostic and stuff. Because they wrote out the girl as like much like Batman, we wrote out the girl for the next movie. So Brenda's not there in two.
It was
So
just
we
a thing in the 90s. Hey,
yeah
let's introduce a girl character, then utterly replace her.
yeah.
I remember watching Blade 2 and was pissed that the love interest from the first one wasn't in there. I was like, she was great. Why did we get rid of her?
There you
You
go.
get one line of dialogue to say why she wasn't there anymore?
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So also the fact that that's another '90s thing we should talk about as well is the fact we shoehorn in a love interest. I mean, do you think Gadget needed a love
Yeah.
interest?
Not even just a love interest. It has to be a love interest that the villain is also
Mm-hmm.
interested in.
I had to go the full Doctor Doom.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's like, why?
All right, let's see. So, do you remember how weird that guru scene was, where like like
Oh my gosh,
visualize
that was so
balls?
awkward.
Yeah.
I was like, he's not going for the balls, is he?
Sadly, he
Oh
is.
my gosh, they're
It's
going for the
it's a it's
balls.
a weird, pointless scene. Shouldn't be in there. I mean, look, I like the extendo arm as much as the next guy, but there's a myriad of ways we could demonstrate that without doing that.
Well, yeah.
All right. Anyway, so the Gadget Mobile, the Gadget Mobile, we kind of takes him on his first bust of the, which by the way, that first bust, most on brand Inspector Gadget scene in the whole film,
Absolutely.
because
I
that's
love that sequence starting like not before when he's just running around yelling at him and we're showing the deleted scenes that didn't make the movie. That is totally pointless. But the starting with him trying to help out the two obvious convicts
mm-hmm.
get into a car that he just thinks that they locked their keys out of. Yeah, that and ending with like the scene with them catching him, it is really good. And
Lazerdude, that's
also,
everything I wanted in the movie right there, okay? Because he's doing the Inspector Gadget stuff, and then, however, what we do, through bumbling, but still by his own hand, he actually catches him.
yeah,
That's all I'm looking for. I just want to actually he stumbles, but he gets the job done.
and also, I think that one of the coolest things in the movie is the camouflage gadget mobile. Like
Mm-hmm.
that reveal when the guy hits the gadget mobile, disappears, and then you pan up that it was just him in camouflage mode. Gotta admit, that's pretty cool.
It is. It's really sweet. Speaking of which, the Gadget Mobile. Here's the thing. Laser I it's kind of fun. They actually had a little nod to the original Gadgetmobile, his original car, the Chevelle that got destroyed. That's kind of a nod to the Gadgetmobile in terms of
Mhm.
shape of that car. Now, that said, as much as references I have for the classic Gadgetmobile, I really do like the design of the white with like the purple interior. I think it looks nice. I don't know. I think it looks cool. I like kind of
Is
like
it
the
is it weird that the doors open and it kind of remind the way the doors open kind of remind me of like I don't know like a pimp mobile?
well. I think that's the point. It's supposed to look like a Pimpmobile.
Yeah, I know. That's another
It's
thing. I'm just
weird,
like
yes, but I don't know.
that's great.
I think the color
The
scheme
car
kind of
itself
fits.
is good.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's fine. I like the design. I actually as a kid I really liked the Gadgetmobile. That was like one of my favorite parts of the movie.
yeah,
Like now I understand how it's a little problematic, but it's still one that I don't hate. It's
yeah,
at least a change that I didn't hate it right away. Like all the other stuff like that they changed like I really hated it. Where this was like it probably is because of the child fantasy in me. Like I wanted a car that I could press a button and have Skittles at any time.
yeah.
You know, that's but you know what? It captures something for a child, and that's something.
Oh yeah. So let's see. That's the thing. So unfortunately, with the Gadgetmobile, I think the Gadgetmobile is fun, but it gets way too much screen time, and because of that, I don't mean like
Mhm.
too much screen because it's a car, so it can't be in every scene in the movie. But I'm saying it feels like in giving him a sidekick that's the car, we do diminish. Penny's just sitting around like, okay, dropping Penny off, and then she, eventually sneaks out and does stuff, or she's like helping him on with his tie, and that's all she
Mm.
does. You know.
Yeah, why does she know how to tie a tie? She's,
Well, that is well. That's it. Well, she's smart
you
though. That's
know,
the thing. Well, we didn't really get to show it a lot here, but she is really
I was
smart. So that's
just
how.
thinking of a way like what how could they include Penny in the show in the movie more like she was in the show?
Well, the sequel
And
did that. The sequel actually gave her a lot more to do.
well, I was just thinking what they could have done for this movie
Yeah,
is what if she was like a child prodigy who was really smart and was helping the doctor on the project?
that would be really. That's a really good idea.
because now she has access to the technology that he does, which is how she might get like the advanced book that they never did,
Which at
or
well at
the
the end they
watch.
gave her the watch. They gave her the watch at
They
the end
did
of the
give her the
movie.
watch. They did give her the watch, but I always thought that book was super cool.
No, you're right. The
Uh,
book was yeah.
but then she's also like involved, and it would make sense why they would choose her uncle over here, because now it's not just this guy helped me a little bit, it's this is my uncle, please help him live. And it also doesn't feel as invasive, because I always kind of felt like he never agreed to this.
That's true. Like Alex Murphy kind of signed his life away on the dotted line, like in case basically he dies, his body is under his OCP property. So that's
At
he
least
did
like he had more humanity in him in here. Like when they Claude dismembers him at the end, like he's just a head.
yeah,
He's just a brain on top of the bot. That's it.
that's true. Yeah, which by the way,
But
very as a kid,
yeah,
very still to this day, very striking image of like a sad kind of like tragic Gadget image of like him in a junkyard, just completely
yeah.
lifeless. Like that's still really haunting to me.
And you know what? I remember when I was going to rewatch this film, I thought I was going to tear into it for here's another movie where love runs wins in the end. Sure, he doesn't need this advanced chip to run himself; he just needs the power of love. But actually, they set it up.
Mm-hmm.
They do set it up with him, with the guy thinking with the foot, and
Mm-hmm.
the foot tapping, and like the technology being reliant on emotions and stuff, and for an emotional guy to actually be able to run this technology without the guidance chip in him, who actually it's set up in there that this technology is respondent to emotional connections.
Mm-hmm.
So at the very least, I got to give it credit for doing that more than what most of those things that end with love being the bomb that saves the day do.
Okay, you ready for a really weird, bizarre comparison?
All right.
Okay. When I was rewatching the movie, something kind of dawned on me, and a lot of people are going to roll their eyes at this, and this is me overanalyzing it. I know, but just go with me on it. A few odd parallels to Captain America: The First Avenger.
You know what? I wasn't. I did take a couple of notes with Captain America in there.
So that's the thing. So think about it. Some similarities to Steve Rogers there, where you have like the security guard who basically is kind of like the 4F kind of Steve Rogers who
Yeah.
kind of wants to be part of a cause, but he's just not up to the task, or he keeps getting turned down over and over again. He's unqualified for his dream job, but he's a nice guy, and you're kind of rooting for him. He gets souped up again after that great OR scene. We put 13,000 plus gadgets into him. He has the tools now. He has essentially the super soldier serum. That gives him the ability to make a difference. But when he gets this, he's used as a PR stunt, much like the Star Spangled Man. He is used as doing
You're not
all this
wrong. Keep
what
going. You're right so far.
that's what I'm saying. So he's doing all this PR stuff. He's basically used as like kind of as kind of like, hey, look at our new fancy kind of role model character here. And he gets it. And he's stuck like that until he proactively makes the choice to prove himself, which he takes on the Artemis Bradford case. He's kind of sneaks the file away in the bathroom. He's looking at it, and he also ends up fighting the evil version of himself, or the evil symbol of what he could have become.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. I don't think necessarily intentional,
No, of course not.
obviously. Course not. I don't think they're thinking like, oh, you know what, Inspector Gadget. That's the movie we should be emulating. But no, I definitely see it. I see it there as like the nice guy hero that gets the chance to do something larger than life, gets these powers, and then you know yeah, no, I definitely see it. I thought that. I thought that when I for because in my notes I put, well, at least Captain America had to do some training. This guy, they don't even know anything he can do. Um, and then I thought about that in the scene where he was like going through all the newspapers, like saving a cat from a tree and whatnot.
Yep.
Here's a question for you.
Yeah, what do
Was
you got?
there supposed to be anything with like the evil with the mayor? Because otherwise, what was her character's point in the movie? Like, I feel like Quimby, or is it Quimby? Chief Quimby?
Yeah, it's Chief Quimby. Yeah.
Yeah, feel like he could have done all of her scenes.
Yes. So that's okay. So here's what a couple things. So one you mentioned earlier. I want to bring it up now before I forget about it. So the deleted scenes. So the movie originally was supposed to be 110 minutes, and I'm not telling anyone anything they don't already know, I'm sure. But the movie was originally supposed to be 110 minutes, but they did a test screening, and it really didn't go well. So they cut the movie down to 78 minutes, which basically had all those scenes repurposed as all the thought balloon gags in the movie. Like when he's
Yep.
at the go and he's imagining like seeing Brenda, apparently all that actually happened, but they cut it for time, and like they like have a little bit like kind of a bit of a lunch date, and that's they blew up the car, doing all this kind of all that kind of stuff. Now there might have been like a skosh more of the mayor in those scenes, but really the mayor didn't have a point beyond the fact that they elected to make the really odd choice that Chief Quimby, as much as I adore the and miss Dabney Coleman, who recently passed this year, love Dabney Coleman, Principal Prickly from Recess. We all love Dabney Coleman, wonderful actor,
Yeah,
and I think
thank
he's
you.
well cast in the role. Problem is, we made a really odd choice in making him a real prick. He's really mean. He's such a jerk.
Well,
Inspector Gadget.
yeah, especially when the fact that like his character is supposed to think that Gadget is the competent one.
Yeah, that's the thing. Which
I'm
clearly,
just like
yeah,
Penny's doing all the cool stuff, but as far as Chief Quimby knows, he keeps on sending Gadget on these missions, and Gadget comes away victorious in the end. So it's
like
like,
Quimby's
from
got
his
two.
perspective, he's a genius.
Quimby's got three jobs in that show. Okay, it's like he's going to give him the mission. He's going to blow up, and then he's going to like congratulate Gadget at the end, thinking that
I'm
that he's going
raised
to.
on duty.
Yep, I'm always on duty, Chief.
And then, yeah, no matter what, he always gets it blown up in his face. No matter, he can never hide from it.
By the way, the reason it's Chief Quimby, it's purely got to be get smart. It's got to be. We have to have Don Adams like call someone Chief.
Well, I mean, that brings up another thing. Is like, do you think the movie could have worked in Mad, or do you think that would have been too much with the also with the origin story?
I think because they went the origin story route and they were trying to legitimize and kind of ground everything. There was no room for Mad. That's what I think. I think.
Yeah,
However, again, I'll tell you that sequel though they have Mad. They do it. Like we have I'm Laser. I'm not joking. Sequel has a lot of
right.
deep cut references to the show. Like you have like actual henchmen from the cartoon, like a bunch of them, a bunch of random Doctor Claw henchmen, or like a group of henchmen. So they pulled
Look,
like directly from the show.
I will say, like a lot of the scenes and the after credits, were kind of like pointless, but I did love the Henchman's Anonymous scene because there
Mm-hmm.
was a lot of like cameos in that one clip. I'm like, I appreciate like going above and beyond for like a 10-second clip.
Mm-hmm. All the Bond villains, all the Bond henchmen,
Yeah, yeah. There was Nick Nack. There was uh
Jaws.
Jaws. There's that guy who uh the giant guy. I don't think he played any henchman, but I always there was a movie called like the Giant of the Mountains or something like that, and he played that, so I always remember him. He's also the guy that beat up the antagonist in Happy Gilmore.
Well, yeah, that's Jaws. That's the guy who played Jaws.
Oh, is he the guy?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's why I brought him up. That's him. Yeah.
okay, never mind then. But yeah, yeah, no, I appreciate that. Anyway, what were we? You're going
Okay.
on about?
Okay. Anyway, so my well, my point, circling back to Chief Quimby. So I think ultimately the thing is that Chief Quimby was so unlikable, they needed someone to say, "Hey, this gadget program is a good idea," and they basically had like an SNL, kind of alum. They had Cherry O'Terry, and it's like, "Hey, let's have her be kind of the uplifting one who's going to basically if Inspector Gadget in the Gadget program is a PR stunt to have kind of a rank and file, kind of like again, basically the good version." Like the good side of Angels version of Dr. Claw's plan for Techno Warriors is like Techno Policemen. Mayor is giving her approval on that. So that's essentially what the idea is here. Again, like the super soldier Captain America, you're gonna have a whole like army of super soldiers,
Yeah,
and he's the beta test. But yeah, so I love the montage though of like the newspaper headlines. You see, it's really nice. See Inspector Gadget be like a role model of the kids. And he's helping them cross the, he's the crossing guard. He's catching the speeders on the highway. It's very kind of the Adam West quality of Inspector Gadget, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, it's not bad. Not bad.
But yeah, he's a rule follower. He's very much the, again, he, even though he bumbles it, he is very much like he tries to be the consummate policeman. Let's see. So, Robo Gadget. We should probably speaking of which, so Robo Gadget can Claw's plan a bunch of techno warriors that don't get tired, that never say no. The very, being his plan there, he's going to use the first one to
That
frame.
line is very ominous when you think about the fact that he has a robot version of the girl.
Mm-hmm. Brenda is the Robo Brenda.
Yeah,
In a very
like
like kind of sexy outfit kind of thing, and she's like,
uh-huh. Um do you think that they didn't realize the implications, or they just hoped that kids wouldn't pick up on it? Because that is an icky thing.
okay, so here's the weird thing about this movie. My mind never went there. I still don't fully back this, but I could see someone making the leap that we have a director who does have way before this, even before Cool as Ice, which before this was like the big studio movie he did. He did do a lot of the Playboy supplemental like stuff. So a lot of
Yeah.
people think some stuff seeped in because there's a lot of like, Inspector Gadget really liking Brenda, and he's doing like the monkey sounds when she bends over. Some people have
Yeah.
read some Freudian things. It's like the point that I don't
Gadget is
subscribe.
grabbing balls.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, there's a lot of stuff like that in the movie. Some people have kind of read into it. I don't fully back that play, but I can't fully ignore it either if it makes any sense. It's like when you have Robo as the clincher. That's the more you kind of have to realize, like, oh yeah, that's there's some. I think the idea is mainly he wanted like a girlfriend, but the moral implications I think already are just like, man, Claus he's a messed up dude, and this version of Claus like not the Dr. Claw we all know, and he's just icky.
Yeah. It's like, it's
I'm
like
gonna kill the
Claude,
girl's
global
father the next.
terrorism is one thing. We understand that, but this is just wrong.
But I mean, yeah, I think in part, I think it's kind of intentional, but I think they're kind of like working the line where okay, we're not going to spell it out, but it's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see a few comments here. Could guess anything. Chief Quimby is the Jim Gordon of the franchise. Traditionally, yes, and with Dabney Coleman, good casting that could bring that to life. Just sadly, he's like kind of a big fat jerk to him in this movie until the very end. But still.
A little too late.
But I too, I like that. My heart goes out to to our bumbling detective who just wants to solve his origin story. Kind of like a PG version of RoboCop. You know.
Yeah.
So I mean, I like the moments where we just have like we see like kind of Inspector Gadget not bouncing back quite like he usually does, like for a moment being a little bummed out there, but then being proactive, actually doing something about it. Like I'm going to actually take this case, even though I was told no because I believe in this.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. Matthew Broderick's performance, I always felt like I don't know. It's almost he's stuck between like a rock and a hard place. Where they want it to be more grounded, but they also want him to play these cartoony scenarios. So it's like there's almost no winning. If he played it more serious and more straight, then he's what are you doing? It's a cartoon. But if he's playing it more over the top cartoony, then it's like, oh my gosh, you're just annoying, and it's just like he's kind of stuck in a no win scenario
Yeah,
here.
and we see him play both sides of that too. With
Yeah,
RoboGadget, he's playing very over the top. You can see it's easier for him to play that one. He's having fun with it at least. He's like lighting things on fire and scaring kids, and it's just he's all mustache twirly. In this case, I guess big teeth kind of twirly, but I just love. Here's the thing. So the gadget nut in me, not just Inspector Gadget fan, but I'm saying in general, liking gadgetry. I love the conceit that he's of all like he's comprised of all deadly, very lethal force kind of gadgets. Like he has guns. Like Inspector Gadget never has guns.
Well, yeah, that I always, as a kid, I was like, you're just setting him up for failure here. This guy has missiles, machine
Hmm.
guns. Although to be fair, the machine guns felt like it shot like a million bullets at his feet and didn't hit one foot. So
Yeah. Well,
I
he did
guess they're
say
not that
dance. He
accurate.
didn't say. Well, he did. Well, no, he shot him. He shot him when he was in an inflated coat.
Well, I guess, but I meant like when he's shooting him back and forth. It felt like none of those hit him there. But
Oh,
anyways,
fun fact about the inflatable coat. Kind of a dual reference to Get Smart and the Pink Panther.
well, that was an Inspector Gadget.
Well, no, I'm saying in the original cartoon they got that from Get Smart.
Oh, I see, I see, I
So
see.
that's the thing. So Get Smart got it, I think, from one of the Pink Panther movies where he had like the inflatable hunch on his back when he was in a costume that basically looked like a hunchback. And then in Get Smart, he had the inflato coat, which basically was a trench coat that he pulled a button and he inflated, and he basically kind of went past the room. And then of course Don Adams in an inflatable trench coat. Let's put Inspector Gadget.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. All right, let's see. So, we have Inspector Gadget actually investigating. He ends up, captured on the table, which again, Stan Winston doing some really good effects, and we see him shirtless on the table and everything.
Yeah, yeah, no.
I
No,
love. How do you feel about the Saturday morning cartoon joke? I like it. I think it's cute.
Uh, maybe the joke is fine, but the fact that they all pause and look at the camera,
Yeah,
maybe
it's a little much.
maybe if they played it up like the scene in like Simpsons
Hmm.
where they're like, I can't solve this, can you? And then it cuts to that they're all looking at Quimby. He's like, well, I'll try. It's my job. Which they kind of tried to do with the henchmen, but it wasn't done very well.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
know. It felt a little weird to me, but like nothing weirder than anything else this movie did.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. So again, we already kind of covered the low of lows there. We find him in the junkyard, and then we kind of bring him back. Thanks to kind of the heart being the motivator behind the gadgets, not the actual technology. Little kind of Star Wars turn off the target and computers logic, and I'll co-sign that. So Act Three. Act Three. We have some. Here's the thing. Honestly, as a kid though, Act Three always stood out to me because we have a lot of fun action scenes I can remember like reenacting as a kid. I mean, so the idea of like we have the high speed chase with the giant turbine, the Gadget Mobile. We have my favorite, but I still to this day, I love when he loses like the limo and he's on the extendo legs and giving chase in the extendo legs. You can tell they really like that because every time you look at the logo of this movie, you see him running on the extendo legs. So it's a cool bit.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was never fully invested in this movie. I feel like there was just too many weird things and crazy things that pulled me out. But there was moments where I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's not
Yeah, no,
bad.
I
Yeah,
totally get that. I understand. Believe
when
me,
he's
I do.
running around with like the legs, because that was like one of the consistent things that he would always do.
Yeah,
His legs, he would shoot up with his legs, probably go through the roof of something, forgetting he was inside, and then the helicopter head.
the extending legs and the helicopter head were always those were the iconic gadgets you
Yeah.
need to have in there.
The only other thing I could think that they didn't do is I think he had springy springs in his feet, and sometimes he would
no,
bounce
we
around.
showed those in the movie here. Remember when he
Did we?
he says I meant skates because remember when he initially started chasing the two
Right.
guys
No, I guess they did do that too.
and he
Yeah.
sprung up
Oh,
into the air on the springs under his feet.
can you think of any gadgets that they didn't do? Because like
Well,
they did the finger key. That was an often one that he used where he'd pull out his finger and it was a key.
yeah, I got to be honest. I'm pretty sure they hit all. Let me this way, they hit all the big ones, and if you count this in the second movie, they pretty much hit everything. But honestly, here that's the thing. Honestly, this first movie they hit the iconic ones. They hit the extendo legs. You got the hat. You had the inflato coat, which I was worried would not make it, but they shoehorned it in there. They have the springs. He has blades instead of skates, but he has blades.
Yeah,
we have the skis. That's I
that
don't.
was good skis for a big one.
He does. He usually holds a magnifying glass, but we had it built into the hat, so that's kind of cool. So we did that
Yeah, that's
even.
fine.
That's a thing. I think we pretty much we had the ear, we had the detachable ear, and like when he was at the party, that we
I
hit a
don't
lot of it.
remember that being in the show, honestly.
Well, no, that thing it wasn't in his ear. His ear worked differently in the show. And the show was like a radar thing. So admittedly, that's a little different.
Yeah,
Maybe that's maybe one that didn't make the cut, but they did like they circumvented it in a way. They used like they basically they turned the ear into a get smart gag. That feels very much like something get smart where he would like put the ear somewhere, and then he would go across the room and it would cause all sorts of havoc. So that's on
yeah,
brand. At least.
that ear is kind of pointless if it wasn't wireless. It's
Well, exactly.
like
That's the gag. It's like the get smartism of like it's a completely pointless.
um. I'll say this though. I think the only thing that's of Inspector Gadget memorabilia that didn't make it was the book.
Well, yeah, you're right about that with Penny. Yeah,
But for
but there's no
for
way
all
we can
gadget
have that. If
stuff,
this is like the origin, we can't have that for it though.
yeah. If this everything with Inspector Gadget himself, yeah, we got all the classics.
Unless Brent, the only way we could have gotten that is if Brenda had that book, is like something she used, basically if we had a precursor to the
If that
tablet
was
through.
the manual,
Yeah, there you go.
if that was the manual, and then Penny got her hands on it and helped him with it.
Yeah, it feels like the book would have been the precursor for the tablet, but I think what you're saying is even better. Where basically if we condensed it onto there, it would have been even better. However, if we did that, then he would have read through the manual. That's the gag. He can't read through the manual because it's giant.
Yeah, you can still do like here's it in you can either have it in digital form in this little book here, or we have
Mhm.
it in printed mode, and you
Yeah.
can still have the gag. But anyway, neither here nor there. I'm just saying, like, yeah, good on them for at least getting the go to gadgets.
Oh yeah. All right, let's see. So, just rounding things out there. Anyway, so we have the battle on the bridge between the two gadgets where he decapitates himself.
Yeah, it feels like that was a mistake on the villain, right? They have
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
button where you could hit to
However,
hit him.
actually, you're right. Having like a little bit of thing you pull there. However, there's a logic to it. Think about this. We saw before we turned in the Robo Gadget. We saw the prototype, which had like the gel head, like the prototype head, where they had no likeness on it. So they had to put that head on there somehow.
I guess.
So I'm just saying, at least I get why it's there. Why is there like a little thing to detach? I mean, I guess the idea is we're gonna detach this head
Well,
and put it
I
on
feel
that
like
head. So
it's probably because if he did it the other way, like if he literally ripped it off, you're still even if synthetic skin, you're still like yanking and ripping the synthetic skin off of the head, and that's
mhm.
probably too dark.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's fully robotic though. He's not human. So
Yeah, but for kids, I think it would still look very graphic.
I think it was a happy medium though. It was like a little detachable thing, which I don't know. They gotta put the head on there somehow. So
Yeah, no,
I don't know.
I'm not upset about it.
I'll tell you what looks really weird when he throws him into the bay. That effect still looks bad.
Well,
Should have quit while you're ahead, and you see like the head smiling after he's like, ah, no, no, no. His mouth's moving, but the mouth is not actually moving. It sounds like he's saying something, but he's not.
yeah,
Okay, anyways, I want to get to all this. Go Gadget Chopper, him with the helicopter hat is like the thing. Plus, the Hat Meal toy does have the helicopter hat on for the hat, so it was always like the gadget from the show. So of course, and we
mhm.
built to it in the third act. It takes him from point A to point B, and we have a showdown between that and an actual helicopter. All that is really cool. That's again my highlight of the film to see Inspector in live action. The thing you've always seen as a kid, him doing it. He looked really cool flying through the city.
Yeah, no complaints about that.
Here's what I will complain about though. The showdown itself, pretty cool. When he blows up the helicopter, that's cool. The problem is, after we do that, we don't have much else to go there. We're okay. So now he's just dangling on the edge of the helicopter. And the way I still call BS on how he gets out of that. Of all the 13,000 gadgets that man has built into his body, the way he gets out of this situation is he MacGyver's a pen. One, Inspector Gadget should never have to MacGyver anything, first of all, but he has to MacGyver a pen to like eject like the Boba Fett missile pack to hit like the red button on the claw, which he has no idea if that's. He has no idea what he's even aiming for. He hits like that. It's a 1,000,000 to 1 shot. It's a gamble. He's like
We
using these
didn't set
pressures.
up that he could do that, or was he
No,
trying to do something like that
but
before?
it's also the fact of like of all again, he's like Inspector Gadget. It's a pen. Okay, it's not like if all the
Bringing
fancy
me
things
back
he can use.
flashbacks of the Lightyear movie.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. You see what I mean? I know the whole like I got a pen, I still got the pen.
Okay, here's a question for you.
What?
They're falling from the building. He's
Yes.
saying everything he can think of. Go
Mm-hmm.
Gadget hang glider. Go Gadget blah blah blah. He says Go Gadget parachute. Nothing
Mm-hmm.
happens, and then Go Gadget parasol. Then the umbrella comes, stops them for a little bit, and then when they land, parachute comes out.
Yes.
Why did the parachute come out earlier?
Well, that's the gag. It's like he's still not, he's still bumbling. So the gadget he said it, but it was like a delayed response.
No, nothing else has been a delayed response.
Well, remember though, he asked for oil slick. He got toothpaste. It's not an exact science.
Well, my guess was that it was like they didn't have oil slick and it went with the next
Well,
option. It's
you're
like
right.
a
We don't
Google,
know
like,
though. I don't
I'm
see why
sorry,
he
you
wouldn't.
asked for oil slick. Did you mean toothpaste?
I don't see why he wouldn't have oil slick though. That makes me think that again. We don't. You're right. We
No
don't know.
evidence that he has oil slick.
Yeah, you're right. That's the thing. We don't know.
But we do have evidence that he has parachute, and why did the parachute go off?
Well, I don't
Anyway.
know. It's just still. I still like that. I still like the idea that Gadget's just not quite getting it right though. Like, the parachute does come up, but like way after, and I think it does. Our forced love story does kind of code it in a nice way. We have like kind of nice little kind of tent over him. I don't know. It's kind of nice. Yeah. But you're right. It's a bit of a sad scratcher of like Plus, it's also the thing too of like going at the speed they were going with a parachute that big, it wouldn't have ended well.
Well, yes, but that's the cartoon logical.
Yeah, exactly. It's not
umbrella stuff.
Here's the better. Here, okay, let's forget that parachute. The better. Here's what you should be asking: Claw's parachute, because they had the dinky little white parachute.
Yeah, that was really tiny.
Okay,
that?
That's what you really should. That's the parachute you should be talking about.
Yeah, that's true. I remember it's like that is the tiniest parachute I'd ever seen. I think that might support a toddler, but that's about it.
Yep. So that's another thing too. It feels really wrong to actually catch Dr. Claw. That feels like the two. If this guy feels so unlike Dr. Claw, I guess you can give it a pass. But you see what I mean? Like on principle, Dr. Claw, you don't catch him. At the very least, you don't catch him unless it's like a huge event.
You foil his plans,
yep,
but he's always one step ahead. That he's never ever involved in the actual scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think there's been a couple of times where like Inspector Gadget has met Dr. Claw, but he doesn't realize it. Like he's gone into the wrong room and then like has a conversation with him and then leaves. And then and he didn't realize that it was Dr. Claw the whole time. So in that regard, you could have done something, but like Dr. Claw's supposed to get away.
Yeah, I mean, it's old. He arrests the arm that then blows up.
It blows up because of all the brownies?
Well, that's why he can't get away this time, because he brought on the brownies. He was too slow to escape. It was like Jake and the Fat Man.
Brownies is a metaphor for smoking, and his voice is worse than the next one because he needs, he's got. And I'm just kidding. They said smoking kills your voice. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Anyway. So it's weird that he doesn't escape. I do like that Penny proactively she kind of turned she kind of turned Sykes the henchman into he basically turned him against Claw, and he kind of copped to the whole thing. It's really weird. He was trying to flush the foot. Like, he's really stupid.
Yeah, the flush the foot. I get that he's an idiot, but
yeah. Oh, by the way, we should bet just so we don't go without mentioning him. Andy Dick's in this movie. He plays Kramer.
Oh, the
scientist guy. Yeah, the scientist guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to bring up because there's actually another Get Smart connective tissue thing. I keep forgetting like what the suffix was, or like the subtitle was, but it was like it's either Get Smart again, or just, it was just retitled Get Smart in the '90s. But there
Get
was a
smarter.
continue Get Smarter. Yeah, because there was Get Smarter, and it was Andy Dick played Maxwell Smart's. Well, one of his they had twins. He played the male twin. So yeah, basically he was an agent of the field. The point is he was in that show with Don Adams, so it's kind of I don't know, it's kind of cute that they kind of worked him in here. I like that he and Sykes feel like Dr. Claw henchmen, like the big guy and the skinny guy kind of archetypes of
Absolutely.
them. So I
I'll
like
give it
that.
that they do feel like Dr. Claw henchmen. One
Yeah,
a mad scientist, one a bumbling oaf. Those
yeah,
are basically the two types of people. The only
yeah.
like honestly, the one that I remember is there was this one guy that was a scientist, and he didn't want to be called a mad scientist, and so but Dr. Claw keeps on calling him Mad Agent, and
Uh
he's like,
huh.
"I'm not mad," you know, because I like he keeps on saying this, but he keeps saying it over and over. He's like, "Now I'm mad," and he gets pissed off because he keeps getting thinks he's getting called mad. He's like, "I'm not a mad scientist. I'm just a scientist."
Yeah.
Anyway,
They called me mad. They called me Wendell. It's a little freakazoid reference for the kids out there with Tim Curry. It's related because he almost was Dr. Claw. No, not really, but yeah, I mean, his name was in the running. Anyway, so yeah, so of course we end a little fireworks coming out of the foot there. The guy's got a girlfriend, which who we're gonna retcon in the next movie.
yeah.
And I gotta admit though, so again, because of the whole deleted scenes thing, we have a whole bunch of post-credit scenes, but the main one I want to focus on is Don Adams' cameo and is nice. I think that's kind of a nice
Jane
to
is not here.
leave a message after the sound of the wolf. Wolf. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's a cute little silly. The point being, I like that it's Don Adams doing voice work, which is synonymous with what he did with Inspector Gadget. If you're gonna have him like
Mhm.
in there, you're gonna have the dog kind of like do something. Cause you can't have the dog like actually talk like he talked in the show. But you're gonna do that. I mean, it's a cute little like as like a post credit thing, as a little capper at the movie. I think that probably should have been the only post credit scene. But I mean, I like
Yeah.
the Sykes one. The Sykes one's funny, but it's not really.
Yeah. A couple of other too many. Too many. Here's a question for you.
Yeah. What do you got?
In terms of Inspector Gadget, do you
Mm-hmm.
think the character is popular enough to get any sort of reboot in the future? And I'm not just saying like movies. I'm saying like, could we get a rebooted Inspector Gadget show? Could we do? Is there something else that we can do with this character, or do you think the time has passed and like kids generations now don't even know who Inspector Gadget is?
Well, it's funny you mention that for two reasons. Well, one, again, right now they've kind of put the kibosh on it, but well, that's thanks, Jacob.
I didn't know there was a 2015 one.
Yes, that's the thing. So there was, I mean, as recent as 2015 and possibly like a new season of it, but it's still consistently like it's not a reboot. It's just more of like over the years, there's only been one like real reboot of Inspector Gadget. That was Gadget Boy, who was essentially a lot of people wonder if that's like supposed to be the young version of Inspector Gadget or just the boy who's very much inspired by Inspector Gadget. But essentially, it's the
Oh,
same.
this. Sorry, I just looked up the 2015 was the CG show.
Mhm. Yeah.
I do remember seeing something on that.
Well, you see what I mean? It's kind of like what the Garfield show did, where they did in CG, but it's the same kind of deal. It's not really a reboot. It's just kind of like we've upgraded the
Continuing the
technology.
same thing where you left. Yeah, no, I get you.
So we're doing that. The most full on reboot we had was Gadget Boy, which is kind of like it was kind of disconnected, but the idea it's like a kid who sounds a lot like Don Adams, but it's like Maurice LaMarche's version of Don Adams. And there was talk of like a rebooted movie, but they kind of put the kibosh on that because that was like in the works like recently, like around 2020, I think is when that was like probably in development. But yeah, they kind of maybe it's a little earlier in 2020, but around this, you see what I mean? Like circa 2015 onwards, it was Gadget's still in the lexicon. I think I don't know. I don't think Gadget's like at. I think there's still like a thing to cling on to with Inspector Gadget, where I don't think he's completely gone, but because of that 2015 thing, we still
Mhm.
have going on. But I think the window might be closing. I think Gadget's relevancy,
Yeah.
that's the tragedy of it. But
Well, also I think we've gotten away from shows where the characters who are the main characters are idiots.
yeah.
You know, like I remember the moment I was like so done with it. I remember when I went to see The Incredibles,
Hmm.
I thought it was going to be one of those types of movies where like the dad was an idiot but happened to do all the right things to save the day, you know?
Hmm.
And then I watched it, it's like, oh no, Mr. Incredible is an actual competent superhero. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh great, I love that. I just was I was so done at that point in time with the bumbling idiot who accidentally trips over a bunch of things and saves the day. You know,
Let me guess. You were basing that assertion on the teaser trailer, which was the whole like maybe a salad.
yeah,
He's trying to put the belt on.
yeah, yeah. Maybe it's a salad. It's a rice cake. Like that teaser trailer was like
Hmm.
my basis for that whole thing. I thought he was just going to be a fat idiot who didn't know anything, and I was just presently surprised and happy that it was like a character that was competent and did things and was smart. You know, where you know I don't know if you could do a rebooted Inspector Gadget show or movie without breaking from the formula so much that it's completely different. You know, you would have to do like a Carmen San Diego type
Yeah,
thing
I
where
would love to see that.
you basically make a new character, but you like Penny would still be the one like behind the scenes
Yeah, she
directing, but
would be
she wouldn't
Claire.
be yeah, but she would but like Gadget wouldn't be the idiot uncle, you know. He would be competent but still maybe a little dim-witted, you know, like he would still you would
Well,
I
he'd be
think that's the only
funny.
way you would
That's the
do
thing.
it.
It doesn't even have to be fully dim wit. He'd be funny about it. He would be like not
Yeah.
actively funny, but he'd just be. But I'm with you there. Carmen San Diego. I love that Carmen San Diego Netflix show they did. By the way, you've seen it, right? Like you.
I didn't continue on with it, but I saw most of the first season. I was liking what I was watching. I
Yeah.
just kind of fell out with it for a while, and then I never picked it up again.
Well,
It
yeah.
was
It's
like,
it's really good. It's got Kim Possible vibes. It's really good. Is that
yeah, I was
basically
enjoying what I was seeing.
it's basically if Kim Possible was a little more serialized, it was the Carmen San Diego show, which was really that's what I'm saying. But absolutely, if they did it like that, that is the way to reboot it. And basically, it's delivering what I was kind of saying earlier. Where I like the idea of Gadget, just like the one thing the original show was lacking that the movies kind of flirted with, but never really did a lot of, was like again, if he could just be a little more active and cognizant, just a little bit more. Like if
Yeah,
he actually did what his namesake was and was actually somebody you believe that he could actually do the job, but clearly
and he should
he
actually
needed
be an
assistance.
inspector.
Like honestly, I think the happy medium is would be like he's an inspector, and like for the overarching Dr. Claus stuff, that's where Penny would shine. I think that's the happy medium. She was like uncovering like the larger plot,
Yeah.
where he's just kind of like he's kind of going on a wild goose chase and actually good on
I'm a
good on
blunt
like.
instrument, Penny. Point me to where I need to go, and I'll bust through that wall.
Well,
But
essentially, Penny's the guy in the chair. Well, she's the girl in the
yeah,
chair. Essentially, that's her
yeah.
role. That's how you
I
modernize
would
her.
like a show like that. Maybe make
Yeah,
Penny like a little bit older, maybe not like a 10-year-old, but and I'm not talking like make her like 20 years old, but maybe like 15, 16, something like that. Just so it's a little bit more believable that she would be involved in sort of thing. I don't know. I you could see
I
it.
have a question for you.
All right.
Okay, so something this movie has that I really do wonder in terms of like any reboot of Inspector Gadget. Period is do you in giving Gadget an because that's in traditionally Gadget he's a blank slate. We just call him Uncle Gadget. He's pre-established. We never dwell on the origin. We don't know who he is because again apparently the trading card origin we mind wiped him. But with that in mind, giving him like John Brown, like giving him kind of a backstory, even if I'm not saying we have to fully delve into the backstory, but do you think in a reboot we could give him just any like a little bit of like self-reflective pathos like that? Do you think like even like a brief? Like, do we want to know the man at all? Do we purely want him to be aesthetic? Do we purely want him to be just like he is? He's the
Well,
character before he's like there's a person there who is also that character.
the problem is if you dwell any bit on the origin of the character at all, there's really no way to not make it tragic.
Right.
You know, like either something really messed up has to happen to him that this is the only way to save him,
Mm-hmm.
or or what? Like
Do you
what's
think
the
there's a
other
way to
alternative?
do you think there's a way to balance that where again like he had this bad thing happen to him, but he's a very chipper guy though, like he's found a way
Absolutely,
to
yeah. Like I would not want to say, let's see the dark side of Inspector Gadget. Nobody wants to
but
see.
I'm saying, like, what if we had this thing where again he's a very chipper guy, but we have like like a pathos for like let's say one episode for argument's sake, like we had like one episode where we kind of like see there's a little something big because we have these shows nowadays where we kind of have like a Steven Universe or something. We have a happy-go-lucky show, but we have those pathos-filled moments where I wonder if we can get
Yeah,
away with that with Gadget, where we could have a moment where we could acknowledge that there's a Greg Universe quality. There's a guy who's incurred a loss of some kind, but
yeah.
he's a very roundabout, just kind of like he bounces back and he's dedicated to his job. He likes what he does. He likes what he is. But there's
I think as long as you
like
make it
look at
like,
okay, here a better thing. Cyborg from Teen Titans,
yeah, no, there's
the good
ways you.
Teen Titans, the original Teen Titans.
Well, I'm just saying, like even Cyborg is like it's like you never see how he became Cyborg in Teen
Yeah.
Titans, but you saw it in Young Justice, and
Mm-hmm.
that was not
Well,
PG.
that's what I'm saying. Like you look at the original Teen Titans. You have like the episode way back in season one where he meets the kid with the prosthetic arm,
Yeah,
prosthetic hand, like that kind of thing, where we don't see it, but we kind of see how a guy deals with that, and
I
overall
think
he's
as
very
long as
happy.
you give a reason for how he is, who he is, and I think you give him some agency in it.
Yeah.
Have him be like, if I maybe make him like an agent of the agency fighting Mad
Hmm.
beforehand,
Yeah.
and then this thing happens to him, and they're
Hmm.
like, we could just, you don't have to accept the Gadget program. We could just give you, limbs for your service. And he's like, no, I want to be able to help out because otherwise my niece is alone in this.
Yeah.
She doesn't have somebody she can trust. So we don't need to see the ins and outs of them drilling stuff into his
No, of
body,
course
but
not. No, no.
give it a little bit of a peek. That's all you need. But
Sure.
anyway,
All right, yeah. So I think that rounds. I'm gonna check for any big comments we want to mention, then we'll bid the folks adieu.
all right.
All right, so I hope I don't know if anyone's still around here. I'm just gonna like Gino Cuddy said, in my opinion, Doug Walker is a putz who has no business reviewing films, and I think that's mainly Doug Walker. He's a little harsh in the Inspector Gadget film. I don't think he really. I concur with I not I think Doug Walker's had his putz like moments for a lot of his like for example the sketches he does at the top of the reviews, but and his ad I hate his ads. I think his ads are stupid, but
Yeah, well,
um,
they used to be funny, but I think
yeah,
he's just run out on those things, and he's just trying to repeat himself. And now I'm just like, and skip.
yeah. I'm also sick of every time he brings up a stupid cat. I can't stand all the cat lover stuff. It's just ridiculous. Nothing against cats. I'm just saying like it's like we don't stop the review just to do a quick joke about hey he's got a cat. I don't care.
Well, you know what it's just YouTuber burnout is what it is. Like you can't do an episode a week for your entire life and consistently be funny. You're
Yeah,
gonna run out of jokes and be repetitive.
yeah.
But anyway,
Uh, Gino Cuddy also mentioned earlier, so I have the completed figure two from the Happy Meal toys, and it's a great figure and a great likeness of Broderick. It's a fun toy, even if the propeller head is disproportionate to his head. Yeah, it is. Uh, let's see. Kogi Semi-Fan brought this back way earlier on. Inspector Gadget was a more serious hero in the first episode where he had a mustache and a different voice, which is true. He had they gave him a mustache, but they got rid of it because he looked too much like Inspector Clouseau.
yeah, if your name's Inspector, you should
Mm-hmm.
probably differentiate yourself just a little bit.
Yep, very true. And this the whole the Doug Walker thing is basically in reference to like 11 top 11 worst films thing that Kogias pointed out earlier that he did a list
Was
of
this
the
in the
top
top
11.
11 of his?
Apparently, so Doug Walker put Inspector Gadget, the first one, on his list of the top 11 worst films that he reviewed. That he reviewed of all the films he reviewed. And I gotta admit, I completely forgot about that. But if
Well,
he's
it
putting
wasn't
like a
number
list,
one. Number one was Garbage Pail Kids. I remember that.
yeah, that's honestly though, yeah, if he's making that was probably before he. That was probably by the time he hung it up the first time, before he came back to do reviews. So based on all the reviews he had, even then, I think there's worse films than Inspector Gadget on that list. But that's the thing. I don't think he fully gave Inspector Gadget a fair shake. But he, like the big line he did have that was kind of funny though was the whole like the way the director cut around things. The whole like, huh? What idiot? Always have like the guy reacting.
Oh
That was.
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
admit that was. I got to give him points. That was kind of funny. Yeah, there was kind of a runner of like between Sykes and between the bus driver at the top, and then the people at the party. We did that a couple times. There's a bit of a bit of a reactionary kind of thing going on there. Little Blue earlier on mentioned he saw the Seinfeld Superman stuff, which I recommend to you, Lazerdude. I think you'd get a kick out of it. It's really funny.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, okay, so I'm trying to see if there's anything else pressing here. I think that's about some stuff about Dr. Claw's face reveal. I think we already kind of talked about. Okay, here's something that's kind of ties in the end credits of the VHS tape. Gino Cuddy also mentioned, I'm nostalgic for the Youngstown song, the music video at the end. I'll Be Your Everything, which basically was you remember, it's like all the kids wearing the Inspector Gadget outfit, doing the. Do you remember this? Did you ever see this?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, it was like one of those mandated kind of kids boppy kind of like Disney things they did. But yeah, you
After the
remember like
credits?
yeah, yeah. It was like well, of the VHS tape at the very end, they hyped it up like stay tuned after the movie to listen to the music videos, and the music video plays like a post credit thing essentially.
I don't recall. My family did rent this movie quite a bit though,
Yeah,
so
yeah. So there was it was kind of it was it was okay. Look, I really hated when Disney did this sort of thing. I mean, I'm nostalgic for it in the sense of I remember it, so I'm with them on that one. I I remember like Lilo and Stitch is always the most egregious, and I love how the filmmakers kind of made fun of this in a tongue-in-cheek way on the commentary of Lilo and Stitch, where they're very facetious, like complimenting it, where you can tell like they really don't like it. Where Disney would stick on like they had like they're really beautiful, like we had the Winona kind of song or Winona song playing at the end, which is it's a remix of "Burn in Love." And then after that, it's like then we play the most poppy, inappropriate Disney song that could be playing, like over the credits of Lilo and Stitch. But the thing is, the idea a lot that happened a lot during the early 2000s era of
no,
Disney.
I
Like,
remember. I think on like the Lion King had one that was
mhm.
like after the credits too, like after the movie.
But you see what I mean, though, where it was like either during the credits or like after the credits, we have like the actual time, the music videos and stuff. There was a thing they were doing. It was always weird. So still pretty weird. All right, so again, I know it's been a long conversation. I want to thank you for sticking it out with me, folks, and I want to thank Lazerdude especially for listening to me drone on and gush nostalgically.
Well, I didn't rip on this movie as much as I thought I did, but there's some good things. But honestly, I would not be surprised if I don't see this movie again for the rest of my life.
Hey, that's perfectly fine, but I think just for experiment's sake, you should watch two and see how you feel about it.
I might. When's the 25th anniversary of 2? Maybe I'll watch it and come back.
Well, might be a little while. That came out in '03, so
Yeah. No,
yeah,
got time to watch it then.
yeah. Well, yeah, by all means, yeah. But there we
But
go.
thanks for
So
having me. Glad to be here, and make sure everyone tunes in tomorrow for the debate.
yes, we have a Marvel debate coming at you tomorrow, folks. So be sure to tune in. He's going to be playing it. There's going to be speed. We take audience questions during the speed round. So if you have any Marvel related questions, we are inclined to use them. And you get the judge who gets the points. So it's going to be a lot of
And ask
fun.
which Marvel hero could not take Inspector Gadget or something like that.
I mean,
Inspector Gadget versus Stiltman. Who wins?
you could ask that. Entirely possible. That's the thing. You could ask that if you wanted to. All right, so I'm going to thank the folks there. Kogias anime fan, theme park priest, Little Blue, Gino Cuddy. It was a new face. I'm glad that we kind of had him show up. We welcome new faces here, as long as they're not bots. Like not like fake commenters, which sometimes happen. Um, let's see. We have Legends showing up saying like favorite film of the '90s, and the whole Chief Quimby thing. How he's played by Principal Brickley, And yeah, that's everyone. So also Jacob Weil, who's running the stream, he was also in the comments. So thanks for showing up, everyone, and thanks for celebrating the 25th anniversary of this, this kind of guilty pleasure of a nostalgic movie, but still pleasure all the same. Um, go Gadget and podcast.
Go away.
Yep.